All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to open the meeting. I call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board for September 9th is being held both. Excuse me, everyone. Hello? Can you guys hear me? We're going to get started. I apologize. I call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board for September 9th is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. All members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room or will be present, and the public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First up, we're going to move into a public forum. So each person will have up to 2 minutes to speak at public forum. Please start by stating your name and address. So if there's anyone present that would like to get started, please come up now. Yep.
Hi, my name's Steve Rigetto. I live at 1 Newberry Street in Hopkinton. We received a letter from myself and my neighbors in regards to Newberry Street for road maintenance and snow plowing as far as making it a private way where it's been owned by the city for the last 23 years that we've been in the town. Due to this, we have some questions we'd like to find out about. Several of our other abutters that have land in the area did not receive the town letter. We also have questions about what entails with the private way as far as maintenance of the street. We've asked the town to fix the pavement. Now that's obviously not going to happen going by this letter. We've asked for multiple years for that. We also would like to find out what the status would be of the street as far as what's underneath of it, regarding in the engineering plans to find out when's the last time sewer or water has been maintained, what the pipes are consisted of, made of, in case it's any hazardous materials from years gone by that was allowed, that's not allowed currently. And sorry, I'm just trying to, my wife Jennifer drafted a letter as far as how to ask for some questions. We also wanted to find out is what is the impetus to the change as far as why it's been made a private way where it was a town street. In regards to small line connections for the houses that are on the street, what is involved with that as far as repairs need to be done, who's responsible, costs, etc. I did mention about the engineering map of the street as far as have access to that to see what we might need moving forward, what money might be needed for that in case repairs are done. How many feet is the line buried under the street? Obviously locations of the lines. Also too, as far as well, if the town is passing ownership over to the neighbors, the tax implications and of the road as far as, you know, we've been paying for services for years, now we're getting cut off, but still paying for services. Now, which are being denied by the letter here. That's kind of really it, and that's what we'd like to find out about on.
Awesome. Thank you for coming up and sharing. Yep. Anyone else that would like to come up and speak for public forum?
Ed Harrow, 8 Spring Lane. Two things. One is I wanted to sing the praises of Kerry Reed for getting another grant for the culverts for Whitehall Brook under Fruit Street. That's on top of the grant she got a while ago for the Longwood Drive study that hasn't yet come to fruition, although the study did. I would like to see the actual work that the study recommends come to fruition, and I've been working at that with the state. The second thing is that from the Trails Committee, I've heard complaints about e-bikes. And I just wish to register my similar complaints about e-bikes. I've got a bunch of pictures, which I'm going to give to you for your amusement. And there is, the first one is a track in Whitehall. This guy went by me popping a wheelie. I was not able to get a picture of him because I was controlling my 100-pound dog while this guy went by. Out in Helena, Montana, where it's almost like New Hampshire, where they live free or die, no e-bikes. No e-bikes. Absolutely not on the trails. This example is from a year ago. We crossed paths in front of the DPW, and he obviously caught up with me at the hill on Wood Street, and then I caught up with him again on Pleasant Street, doing approximately 25 miles an hour on the sidewalk, where he is going to be not seen by the person pulling out of an intersecting street because they're not going to be looking that way for him. This is another one. Came out of the center trail, popping a wheelie on the sidewalk. There were two of them. Driving my car, it was a little difficult to get pictures, but there's a picture. They carry no typically any kind of identification markings, no license plate, no nothing. They're free range. If you had to pick out one of these guys and remember who it was, could you do it? Yeah, one's on a red bike. That's the only one. You may remember last year, just about this time, I stapled these all together. The guy on the e-bike on the sidewalk, reportedly by authorities, quote unquote, flying up the sidewalk, leaving a 50-foot skid mark. So that's my piece. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a good night. I have to go to Concom.
Thank you, Ed. Who else would like to come up?
Good evening. Karen Crum, 12 Joseph Road. I just wanted to speak on the interviews with the legal counsel. I wanted just to give my overview, just my input as a citizen. I know you all have jobs. I actually watched it 5 times. I'm not kidding. The 5th might have been at speed 2.0. But the more I listened to it, I actually found it fascinating. I understand exactly why we are where we are. I know that we're looking at a new legal firm because we found ourselves in litigation, and I know it's because of our legal counsel. There's no doubt in my mind, you basically said it with your interview questions. There's 2 firms that really stuck out to me. I skipped over the first because that's why we're here, is to hopefully replace them. KP Law stuck out to me. I found them the most respectful of each other. The way that they just worked amongst each other without having to say, you know, you can speak, or do you want to? I was actually pretty impressed with them. I liked that they didn't consider themselves a 6th board member. They had a clear record of being kept on by people that moved to other towns. Found that really impressive. I found it could be an advantage that 98% of their clients are municipalities and that they understand what pressures the select board faces. I thought that could give us a lot of insight into best practices of other towns, maybe. The third firm, or the second firm that I felt was a contender was Brooks and Durensis. I admittedly prejudged them. It was a little bit of a rough start. They probably came most prepared on what our town is dealing with, why we're in, you know, why we're looking for a new legal counsel. I was pretty impressed with that. They came in swinging. I loved the respect they had for the citizens and the board and just the town as a whole. I thought that was really impressive. I loved that they talked about doing the right thing. And I love that they basically told us that we need to we need to not be in the situation that we're in and how to get out of it. I love that they said that as a select board, you need to be aware that you can't give information, but you should be telling people what you're doing. And this is why, when people say, why is something taking so long? To be able to tell them, well, this is what our goal is, but not tell them how you're going about it. I thought that was fantastic advice. So thank you for interviewing these law firms. There's probably a ton out there. I think we did have 4 good ones in front of us, and I appreciate that you are taking this seriously, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up?
Hello, Linda Chus, 11 School Street. I want to follow up on Ed's comments about e-bikes and say something a little different. I agree with Ed that we have a huge e-bike problem, and it goes beyond just the trails. Trails was originally going to work on e-bikes on trails, but the problem extends to the sidewalks, the roads everywhere. They're just not being monitored, and the education for residents doesn't seem to be there. So I feel our town needs to do something about them. Unlike Ed, I don't want them banned from trails. I think they're a very useful thing, especially for people who aren't like Ed and can bike a million miles. I don't have any pictures to show, but I just would like to say that I hope the town will look into addressing safety and regulation and enforcement of regulations for e-bikes, not banning them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up and speak?
Dana Babin, 91 Downey Street. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Through the chair, I just wanted to provide some sort of education, if I may, from having witnessed what's been going on in town related to this whole Hillers thing. I heard a lot of people saying that they didn't understand why the wife in that situation wasn't more vocal in condemning the actions of her husband. And so I just wanted to shed some light on why that might be. So for the years that I spent working as a prosecutor, many times with wives of certain perpetrators, I got to know why they might be so protective of those who were being charged with those crimes. It wasn't uncommon to have an uncooperative victim, and victims of manipulative men feel trapped. I'm not saying that she felt manipulated or that she was, but going forward, as you are charged with the duty you are charged with per the charter and the general laws of the Commonwealth, if you would keep these things in mind when you are vetting businesses to be in this town, that would be most appreciated, I think, by those who live in this town, as has been evidenced by everything you've been seeing, reading, and hearing related to this Hillers incident. So these victims, they don't want their controlling partners to see them telling authorities that their partners, the husbands or whatever, boyfriends or whoever it may be, and it's not gender specific, of course, but in this case, by example, these victims don't want to see that they don't want their husbands to see them telling the authorities that their husbands are a bad person or that they did something bad. Why? Because they have to live with that person. That person is going to come home. That person will continue to manipulate, and that sort of fear of that person coming home is very controlling. The abusers know it, whomever it may be that they are abusing or however they may be manipulating. The victims don't often feel safe enough to say it out loud. And what they want is for other people to champion their cause. And hence, the prosecutor comes into play, right? That's what you think of. But others too need to stand up for these victims and say what's right. They want others to do that. Others like the prosecutor, yes, but also neighbors in their community, judges, juries, cops, and yes, even select boards. To stand up for them so that they don't have to stand up for themselves, perhaps. Unlike the wife in this hypothetical situation, those other people I just mentioned don't have to be there when the bad guy returns home. And when that guy gets home, the victim wants to be able to say to him, and I use victim loosely, hey, I did everything you told me to do. Or I did everything I knew you would expect me to do. I defended you, I begged for clemency, I tried my best to protect you. Why? Because that victim or that person doesn't want the perpetrator, in this example, to be able to blame her for his latest woes. She wants him to have to blame others like you. So take the blame.
Dana,
If this happens again,
Dana, can you wrap it up? We're well
and
over
give this
time.
family the freedom in the future, if you see this happening again, please give them the freedom that they deserve. Because for way too long now, thanks to our police chiefs and our many select boards, the message has been quite the opposite.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up and speak?
Steve Snow, 78 Pine Island Road. So we already have gone through public forum that we cannot ask questions during public forum. We're here to voice our opinions on stuff, and that would be taken up later. But we were also told that we could have agenda items that would have to be placed on the agenda by the Wednesday before a select board meeting. Twice I've tried to get the select board meeting to have on the agenda the issue of the Timothy Brennan reinstatement that was voted on by our town meeting. What's going on? Do you just pick which ones you want to deal with? This is, you've dealt with somebody's life. We need to get this cleaned up and over. Please put it on the agenda next SB meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to come up and speak? Okay. Do we have anyone on Zoom with a hand raised?
There's no hands raised.
All right, thank you, Amy. So next, we are going to move on to some volunteer recognition. Select Board will consider recognizing Chuck Daci and Mavis O'Leary, who have been nominated for recognition of their volunteer service to the community. We'll do these one at a time, so if Chuck would like to come up, Elaine, if you'd like to introduce this when Chuck comes up, and then Matt would like to introduce Mavis.
Okay. All right. So Chuck was nominated for recognition by Linda Chus, who's also here. And Linda wrote, the Vice Chair of the Trails Coordination and Management Committee, Chuck has invaluable experience about trail building, woods, and other natural resources that he brought to the TCMC based on a lifetime of related experience. He has spent many hours a day, nearly every day, working on our trails, from presenting great ideas based on his experience and observations to surveying and mapping new routes, to building bridges across streams or wetlands, to clearing weeds, to refilling stations that provide dog poop bags, to serving as an expert on many trail walks led by the Trails Club, to being supportive of people he encounters in these efforts, and then some. Chuck recently decided to give up his seat on the newly formed Trails Committee to allow new faces to join the group. He's a class act and has more energy and mental capacity at 81 than most people do at 31. There are so many people in our town who give so much to the trails, and a number of them deserve recognition, but at this moment, it's appropriate to recognize Chuck Daci for all he's done. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Chuck. Would the board have any comments or anything they'd like to share? Amy, would you like to start?
I would. I've come across Chuck's path many times during Eagle Scout projects, and we really appreciated his dedication and his help to find good projects for the Scouts, and he was always very helpful lending tools and things that the Scout troop didn't have. So we really appreciate all your work.
I think the trails are part of what make the community so unique. There are many beautiful communities around us. Hopkinton has made a consistent commitment to their accessibility and opening nature up. You have been a significant part of that for a number of years. So thank you not just for the work that you have done and we have enjoyed, but for continuing to open the woods to the generations that will come after you. It's a gift that will continue to give. Thank you for that.
I'll echo the same. Thank you so much for all the good work and your devotion for this town. And it certainly has not only enhanced the cause and the trails, but also the cause of volunteering for the town. And I'm sure our generation, our next generation will follow and learn a lot from you. So thank you for all the contributions. Definitely well deserved.
Brian?
Elaine did a great job describing the impact, Chuck, that you've had on the town. And it's really nice to see people like yourself recognized for all that hard work. And we appreciate it very much. And we hope you keep going. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo what my colleagues said, what Elaine shared. You know, that commitment to the town, it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you so much for your commitment and all your volunteer time. We have a little certificate for you on behalf of the town. If you'd like to come up and get it, would you like to say a word or two?
Only that I appreciate being appreciated, but it really goes to all the people I've had, the volunteers I've had the pleasure to work with, and the volunteers are part of what keeps this town going and what it is, and I'm just glad I've been able to be a part of that and get to know many, many committed people that are here to make the town work. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chuck. Come up, here you go.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mavis, would you like to join us? Welcome, Mavis. I believe your neighbor is going to introduce you.
This is pretty exciting for me. Mrs. O lives 3 doors up from me and has been a legend the entire time I've lived in town. So this is a little bit of a fanboy moment for me. I'll tell my story at the end, but coinciding with a major personal milestone, I assume 70, a request recognition for Mavis O'Leary's many years of service to the town of Hopkinton through roles not limited to on the Trails Committee, HALT, Zoning Advisory, Emergency Preparedness Committee, and as a Scout First Aid instructor and substitute nurse at schools. These and other volunteer roles spread over her 65-year residency reflect her concern for the health and well-being of the town, particularly the youth of Hopkinton. She was among the founding parents of the Hopkinton Hornets youth hockey team as well. Mrs. O'Leary has made service to fellow residents a core concern throughout her decades in Hopkinton. She's dedicated significant volunteer hours to many organizations and causes that elevated the quality of life here. And I'll choose to put a fine point on it by saying Mrs. O still has what I would argue is the nicest yard in the neighborhood. She certainly still has the nicest front garden in the neighborhood. But what I think I would choose to highlight here to really summarize the person that we are celebrating, Mrs. O still keeps the side door open, just in case there are any kids who need to run in to check in and say hi or get a sandwich, just like it was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 65 years ago. That's what being part of your community is, and that's what it means when you make an impact. Thank you so much.
We'll start with Brian. Comments?
I don't live next to Mavis, but I have worked with her over the last 20 years or so, and she's always been here for the town of Hopkinton, always with a big smile, and always very pleasant, open-minded, and willing to figure out ways to help us move forward. I think this is a great honor for Mavis and certainly deserved. Thank you, Mavis.
I echo the same. Thank you, Mavis, for all this great service and for decades and decades of service to our town, to the neighborhood. People like you is the reason our town is so nice, a great tight community, and we are a great town with our wonderful neighbors. So there's a lot I hope we all learn from you, and appreciate all your contribution. Thank you.
Yep. Amy?
Yeah, I don't think I can top what Matt said, but I have heard your name over the years many, many times with a variety of different organizations and committees, and an appreciation for your work. So we really appreciate you, and we're happy to have you and honor you here tonight.
Yeah, just like everyone said, thank you so much, Mavis. I mean, all these years of contributions and across many different areas, Hopkinton doesn't run with people like you being involved. So thank you so much. On behalf of the town, we have where'd the certificate go? Certificate for you. And if Chuck would like to come up too, we'll all take a picture. But congratulations, Mavis. We'll all come up here. The yellow. That one, yeah, perfect. Oh, we're fine. All right, next we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The Select Board will consider the following consent agenda, minutes from the August 5th, 2025 meeting and the August 12th, 2025 meetings. We'll consider accepting the gifts, $275 from the Irvine Foundation to the Fire Department, $12,000 from the Hopkins Public Library Foundation to the Hopkins Public Library for creator space purchases, 2 freezers worth $7,734.16 from the Friends of Hopkinton Seniors to the Hopkinton Senior Center. Accept resignations for Heather Burton from the Concom, Jamie Shepard from the Regional Vocational School Committee, a resignation from Laura Hanson from the Parks and Rec Commission, confirm the town manager's appointment of Mitchell Wolpert as the deputy assessor and Mary Zanai as the human resources generalist. Parade permits for the 2025 Jimmy Fund Walk, scheduled to be held on August 5th, 2025. No road closures requested. The walk will take place along the Boston Marathon course, starting at the marathon start line and ending at Ashland Town Line. And then the 26th annual Michael's Run 5K, which the event is held on October 18th, 2025 at 10 a.m. The starting point of the race will be Ash Street and ending point will be the Town Common. There are road closures requested on Ash Street, starting at Center School to Thayer Heights, Park Street at Hayden Row, and Thayer Heights on the Ash Street corner. The applicants request the fee for this permit be waived as they are a nonprofit organization. So we will start. Does anyone want to pull anything out?
I just want to thank our volunteers, Laura Hanson for Parks and Rec, and Heather Burton, Conservation Commission, Jamie Shepard, Regional Vocational School Committee for their service.
And for the very generous donations we've received this week. Yeah.
I actually do have a question. So through the chair of the town manager, parade permits. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I will indulge and I will ask. We had a significant conversation about parade permits in the early summer around the Parade of Terrible. I will not relitigate. I would, however, like to understand before I just vote on these on a consent agenda, if the permitting here and the payments for details and things is consistent with the requirements that we enforced during the July discussion.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were transparent about that. Thank you.
Brian, any comments?
No, I'm good, thanks.
All right, so then I will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That is unanimous. Perfect. All right, and again, thank you for everyone for the gifts, the volunteering for the town. So next, we're going to move on to the new Vic license for Crust and Co. LLC at 77 West Main Street. Sorry, Vic license and an entertainment license for Crust and Co. Pizza Company. The applicants like to come up.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to start by just introducing yourself to the town?
Sure, yeah. My name is Ryan Dion. I'm a resident of Westford, Mass. I have a close to a 9-year history here in Hopkinton. I co-founded and grew the 110 Grill restaurant brand. The Hopkinton location was our 4th location, opening back in June of 2016. I departed them early this year and have been doing some consulting work. And since 110, I've had a long-standing relationship with Paul Mastriani, the landlord. A couple weeks ago, he called me up and told me about an opportunity. I went down and met him, and we made a deal. And I quickly developed Crust and Company. It's going to be pizza, similar food to the prior business there. The ambiance, colors, etc., has already changed. Be a very different look when you enter the restaurant, which I think is important given the history there. I think it's also important to mention, I've never met the family, the prior owners. I don't know who they are. I know their names. I've never dined in that restaurant prior to going there recently. I've heard some things, of course, and whatnot, but I think it's important to state that at no time would anyone in that family ever be returning to my business, nor would that ever be entertained. It's time for everything that I've heard for everybody to move forward with a new great business in town.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ryan. We'll start, Elaine, do you want to walk us through, because this, moved pretty quickly. Can you walk us through where we are with, the process? I think there was a Corey check in there, all that. Can you just...
Correct. So the Corey check has been done and everything is fine. We're in the midst of the process because the select board permit isn't the only one that gets issued, the select board's license. So the Board of Health also issues a food service permit, and that application is pending, but it should be submitted shortly. So in consultation with the Health Department earlier today, they've indicated that they're comfortable with the board, if it chooses to, approving its license contingent on issuance of the Board of Health's permit. They've spoken with you and are comfortable with the process.
Perfect. All right, so I'll open up to the board for comments, questions. Amy, you want to start?
Sure. I appreciate you being upfront about the ownership and the previous owner.
Of course.
So I noticed in the documents, I think it said that you might be changing out some of the restaurant equipment. So I just wanted to know if that would require like approval by the fire chief or the board. I guess the Board of Health is still pending, because if you were to switch to like a wood burning oven or something, then that would need more ventilation and.
Yeah, I guess absolutely. The good part for me is the restaurant equipment is in great standing. I don't need to change anything. I did speak with Sean from the Health Department earlier today via email to let him know. I also spoke with the fire inspectors that popped by for a visit last week and let them know as well that absolutely nothing in the kitchen at this time is changing.
Okay. And then did we also do the check of the sex offender registry as well as Corey, or would we pulled up both? Elaine, do you know?
I'm sorry?
Did we also check the sex offender registry database?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then I assume you'll probably be employing teenagers, just like most pizza restaurants do, right? But you'll have systems for supervision,
Sure will.
so that they wouldn't be alone with an adult.
Yes,
in it.
we will have trained managers as well as myself there.
Okay. Thank you.
Matt.
Thanks. Pleasure to meet you.
As well.
Elaine, just to confirm, I want to make sure I got the answer I was hoping to hear for Amy's question. A Sori and Corey have been executed, completed, and did not return any results.
That's correct.
Okay.
I just want to add, we will also Corey the managers that you have on.
Certainly.
Yep. Okay. I just want to be emphatic. It's one of those like buzzword terms, Corey, sorry. We all know what they're supposed to be, unfortunately. I will hesitate a little bit. I blanch at potentially shortcutting the health inspection, especially when there are items on here in terms of menus, signage, and to just be perfectly blunt, as you noted, you're coming to us in a little bit of an unusual circumstance. I recognize I'm not the business owner, and I'm certainly not Paul Mastriani, who I definitely don't think would appreciate this. I think it behooves us to do this one the right way, to dot all of the I's, to cross all of the T's. If that means we need to have a short meeting potentially between us at an earlier date, I would indulge having that conversation as well. I don't get to make that decision unilaterally. My feedback would just be, I think the more we do to not shortcut anything and do this one the right way, the more we start off on the right foot from a place of trust. And I think to your credit, you are starting off from a place of trust. So please don't hear the hesitancy as being indicative of not supporting you or the group. You have operated in town. I've been to that business, and I'm happy to say I've actually seen someone cut off at that business. I really like that. Never want somebody to be in that position, but you appreciate seeing it responded to that way.
It wasn't you, was it?
Well, it's not me. We in the select board don't drink.
You set me up for that one.
I did, and you ably hit it. So otherwise, my only other thoughts here, there were some notes in here about potentially switching out music. The fire department noted, Gary, I see over there that there were no comments, but if you do that, there would be a desire for reinspection. Again, this to me kind of is, it's fluid. I'd rather ask you to spend another week or two. Let's solidify that, and then let's have the conversation with the town services about how we give you the hall pass. How do we make sure everybody's coming in and prioritizing? That doesn't mean you get an easy review, but it certainly means we talk to the fire chief about how we make sure we can get somebody out there as soon as possible. That would be where my head is at. I'll yield to my colleagues about additional questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Shadul?
Thank you again for stepping up, and welcome again to Hopkinton. And we all like Mountain Grill. We often dine there, so it certainly has good quality and reputation. Now, I think you mentioned it in your intro and overview, but just for the record, I want to be absolutely clear that we all understand is that you do not have, can you confirm that you do not have any business or financial relationship with the previous owner?
I have no relationship, business, financial, personally. I've never met them. I don't know their phone number. As I said earlier, I think if one of them walked past me right now, I wouldn't recognize them.
Thank you. Just wanted to put that on the record. And then I realized Corey and Surrey has been cleaned, so that's good. And if some of these other pending items, we can put it as conditional or pending item when we, should we choose to vote tonight. That would be my recommendation. And it's for a later discussion, but I, through the process, came to learn, and this is not pertaining to you, of course, as you can realize, given the context that we have been through, is that Corey and Surrey doesn't always cover the national criminal or crime or sexual abuse database. So there are national databases that we should opt in for check and background check in future as part of the validation process. That's something to inquire and I think improve on our side as part of the process. That would be my recommendation or suggestion, but that's for I think our future discussion. The last one is that I think Amy touched on this. Can you walk through a little bit about your employee management style and especially the various compliance for manager training and employee management?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from the corporate environment that I come from, you know, I choose to follow rules and laws, and you know, for example, you know, those that may be employed there that are 16 can only work to a particular time on a school night, right? We have to follow those important rules and laws to ensure that, you know, we're doing the right thing. You know, I'm also a fan of people feeling comfortable at work, having an open door policy, which will be part of our handbook that's coming out soon. And really just being all around great employers and treating people with respect and having fun at work is the name of the game. There's a lot of situational management and situational leadership that occurs in a restaurant. There's a lot of moving parts all at once that happen, both through, because of course, we'll just use the example at Friday night at 6:30, everybody in town wants dinner. People don't like dinner at 4 o'clock, people don't like dinner at 9 o'clock, they want dinner at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So there's a lot that transpires. You asked about ongoing training, and it's really just, of course, as I mentioned, following, rules, laws, regulations, but it's an open door policy and communicating with people to ensure that they understand the proper way to treat people, and that's what's most important.
Thank you. That sounds great. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your interest in Hopkinton and coming before us this evening and explaining what you would like to do. I think it sounds like a great idea. Have you executed a lease yet?
Yes, I have.
There's a fully executed lease in place?
Yes, there is.
Thanks. And there were no problems in getting that lease executed? Nothing out of the ordinary, right?
No,
okay.
No problem.
And no unusual terms or anything like that?
No.
Okay. This is great. Like Mr. Menon, I do think that we could probably go ahead and do something this evening with conditions. And the conditions wouldn't be anything unusual than a normal condition for a license application. I think the Board of Health thing is obviously important. You would know that being in the business. But I think we'd be okay moving forward. Thank you. Elaine, just real quick though, from your perspective with these conditions, and I think we'd want to make sure we cover those, clearly and build that list. You're comfortable doing it this evening with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. So again, thank you for coming here tonight. We appreciate, like you said in the beginning, you're helping move the town forward from a certain situation. I appreciate that. My one question, I don't think I heard it. What will your role be in the day-to-day business? Owner-operator.
So I will be there full-time, especially early on while we grow and stabilize the business. The only times that I will pull back a little bit down the road is, as I mentioned, when we have a full-time manager that's involved in the business, which will come at some point. But until that time, it's very important that I'm there.
Perfect. And I'm not familiar with the industry. What's the normal ramp-up time for something like that?
For
weeks, months? No, just like...
Oh, months. Yeah. I'd say by the end of the year, more than likely. That would be my estimate based on my experience. Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you again. I know my initial thoughts, before I look for a motion from the board, Elaine is comfortable with moving forward. It's not something that's uncommon for us to do. We put in these conditions. It doesn't change anything, right? The license doesn't happen any sooner than when the Board of Health signs off. So I'm very comfortable with that. What that does is allows you to start the second you have those sign-offs. You don't have to come back in front of us. We don't need to hold a special meeting just to move this. And it kind of lines up with, a lot of things we've talked about supporting our businesses in town and moving them forward and moving them quickly when we can. So, so that would be my recommendation and, my opinion for this. So with that, I will, thank you, and we'll let the board kind of discuss and look for a motion.
Just quickly here, actually, on the other side of this, we're speaking generically. I do want to just acknowledge and thank the landlord for stepping forward and sort of helping the town. We ultimately had a resolution to this that didn't take place and was discussed in this forum. I'm going to follow your lead on the way you're discussing it, but as we go through this, I do at least want to note we appreciate the collaboration and creativity to help find this happy ending.
Mr. Chair, could we get a list of possible contingencies from the town manager's office?
So I recommend contingency being issuance of all required permits from the health department and completion of all required inspections.
Through the chair, can we be clear what we mean by required inspections? And I promise I'm not trying to be pedantic here, but we talked about potentially the shifting nature with the audio equipment. I'm just trying to be clear about what we are requiring. I am not trying to be an obstacle here.
Yeah, so we can go a little deeper.
For all these such licenses, it's electrical, building, and fire inspections, and health.
And so, just to be clear for everyone, nothing happens until all of these are checked off. The second all of those are, the license, then becomes active. You don't need to come back here. And so I think if we encompass all of those in a motion, we'll be good to put it to a vote. So would someone like to take a shot at making a motion for this?
Mr. Chair, I move to issue a common, excuse me, I had a minute. I move to issue a common victular license and an entertainment license for Crust and Co. LLC, doing business as Crust and Company Pizza and More at 77 West Main Street, with the following contingencies: that all permits from the Board of Health are issued in advance of the license being issued, and that all required inspections, including electrical, building, fire, and health, are completed and satisfactory before issuing the license, the common victular license.
Got a motion. Second. We've got a motion and a second. Elaine, does that motion sound in order to you?
Yes, it does.
All right. Any comments from the board before we put it to vote?
No, I think that covers my concerns.
Okay, Matt?
I think it's clear where I am.
Shido, O'Brien?
Are you guys good with that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, so we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, one opposed. Congratulations, you'll have that license upon completion of the inspections approvals, but thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, next we are going to move on to the 52 Main Street building collapse from about, what was that, a week and a half ago, August 28th. We thought this was something that was worth spending a few minutes discussing. It's obviously, concerning, and a lot of people in town had questions. As part of this and being, proactive, on Friday, Elaine and I sat down with our public safety leadership team, so leadership from the fire department, the police department, DPW, building inspection department, land use, and we just had a conversation around, not so much how did this collapse happen? I think it's, construction and demolitions, unfortunately, things do happen. But from a town standpoint, are we doing everything we can to make sure that our residents are safe? That was the most of it. The fire chief is here. You can join us if you'd like to add. Purely optional, but I don't blame you. But I think, we had some big takeaways, and, Elaine, I'll have you share your thoughts in a minute. I didn't go into this, we sat down for an hour. I didn't expect us to have, a fully worked out action plan, within an hour, but we did come away with some immediate actions that were going to be taken out of precaution. For starters, there was a lot of questions around, why wasn't there details on such, a big day? How did this happen? We have the authority from the police department to issue these for safety concerns. So there will be details monitoring the intersection at Main and what's the other street? Cedar. That's a good start. Beyond that, it's going to go to a review of the application process. So obviously a demo permit was issued, and there was lack of, not only transparency, but communication between the town, once it got issued. The fire department wasn't included, the police department and DPW were not included. That to me is an issue, and a very fixable one. So all departments were in favor of reviewing that process, getting their input as part of the standard checkoff process, which I think will help. And then it really opened up into a bigger conversation. Demo was step one of a very large, impactful construction project right in the center of town. So there's going to be more trucks coming into town for deliveries and, concrete trucks as they work on the foundation. So there's a lot more that needs to come from this. I think our other action item was, the board getting regular updates on, that team working together more and working with, I think it's Brendan is the development agency, to make sure that, there's a level of comfort in town with this going forward. So I'll take a pause there. Chief, Elaine, if you'd like to share your thoughts on it, and if I missed anything. But this was more about, being proactive and transparent.
Yeah, I think it was important to talk about the permitting process and ways we can improve that. It will be helped when we go to an electronic system. another 6 months or so. That'll help. It will automatically go to people. But we also talked about you can include conditions with a permit. So with a demolition permit, can include a list of conditions as far as hours and safety and details and things like that. So it's really important to talk about those and to implement those.
Chief, any thoughts?
Yeah, I have to agree with both Elaine and the chair. There's a misconception that a lot of the demo stuff comes through public safety when it really goes through the building department. The only reason we even knew the building was being torn down is because they took the fire alarm and the sprinkler system offline. Other than that, we didn't have a data demo or anything. Our meeting, I think, was very well. I think we're going to end up with a nice permitting process. We're now kind of like these other licenses that we do, that the FD and PD can actually make comments.
Perfect. Thank you both. I'll just kind of turn it over to the board. Again, this was more of a just proactive transparency thing, but comments, concerns, questions? Brian?
Yeah, thanks. So I've said it a million times probably. I've been in the construction business for 40 years now, and the first 30 was in general construction, building, demos and building something after the fact. And most of those cases, something like this will fall over. I mean, it just kind of happens that the building, they're tearing it apart, and it'll fall one way or the other, and it's usually in a contained site, not adjacent to, abutting a sidewalk and then a road right there, So that was the odd thing about this whole thing. I've seen a lot of stuff go awry on a demo, in the demo process, but not with a sidewalk right there. So I think that's the key learning for the community is, we've wanted this thing to move away from the sidewalk for 50 years now. And then we go to demo it, but we didn't move anything away from the sidewalk. So it's an unfortunate situation. I was there. I popped out of my new place over here, and there it was. So, and I watched the whole thing unfold. I thought everybody did a really good job trying to make sure everybody was safe, and I think there was wide consensus very quickly that there was nobody there, unfortunately. But, obviously with the location of that building, and now with the building going up to adjacent to that sidewalk pretty tight, we're gonna have to continue to be very, very vigilant at that intersection. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chief, and thanks to the department and everyone who was involved in mitigating the challenges that day, and glad that no one was hurt. But for the sake of transparency, can you tell us briefly what exactly happened and what do you think was the root cause?
I will not be able to answer that, the root cause or anything like that. You'd probably have to ask the building inspector or the demo company's engineers.
Yeah, and like, just to be clear, like when we had this meeting, one of the first things we said was, because the town doesn't do the demo, it wasn't, we weren't looking to just point fingers. It was primarily focused on public safety and what can we do better going forward so that if something falls down, we know without a question that no one's at risk, everyone's safe right away. So that was more the conversation. There was no kind of clear cause given.
I see. No, I certainly support that, and I understand that it wasn't on the town's area, and we did mitigate and manage through your help, through the town's help. But I do think that we should ask those questions, tough questions, to the builder, because as my colleague Mr. Hare mentioned, there are more work coming up, and they will be doing a lot more, and we are institutionalizing more vigilance, which is great. And I fully support it, and I'm sure that will help a lot. But at the same time, I'm always on the side of holding accountable, and that means someone explaining what happened and why it happened and what are they going to do better next time. And things happen, as we know, in construction and other areas or other type of work like this. But we definitely want to also make sure that we ask those tough questions, if not already. So something I think for future meeting, I would put it out for now that let's find out. And I think we also owe it to the town residents. I get a lot of questions and a lot of queries, emails about it. So it would be good to have that clarified for the sake of transparency and understanding. And I'm really glad that, again, we are all being vigilant without any real damage. And we are going to certainly, with all this due diligence that we talked about tonight, put our best foot forward for managing it better in the future. So an action item and a pending item for future as well, but thank you for all you and the department do.
Thank you, sir.
Matt?
Chief, folks, let's start with the good stuff. Folks, blow out your candles and unplug your batteries. This gentleman and his team have had to respond to 2 fire incidents in this town this week. And while I am pleased that we work and are served by the excellence of this crew, the fine men and women of the Hopkinton Fire Department, I'd love it if they had a little bit of a quiet weekend, and I think they might too. So if you have as much control over it as you can, folks, let's be a little bit extra vigilant this weekend. We've been asking quite a bit of the fire department. Just quickly here, I'll choose to take a little bit of a different tack than has been taken to my side here, which is this. I was out of town when this happened. I actually found out about this because I got an email from my daycare telling me that I should not drive on Main Street. I actually did not find out from the town or associated with my position. Make of that what you will. I hope you hear it this way, because this is the feedback I have gotten. Folks, it's okay to be scared about this one. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be confused. This happened on the first day of school, right around when the kids let out. And while yes, there was a period, we were rapidly able to ascertain that there were not people impacted by this, there was also a period of time where we were uncertain if there were people impacted by this based on how that building slid onto the sidewalk. Where I come from an industry, we call that a near miss, and we celebrate near misses as opportunities. This is an opportunity for something to never happen again. I can appreciate that we are talking about the demo. I can appreciate that we are talking about permitting and we are trying to restore a sense of calm. It shouldn't surprise you that you're hearing something different from my voice. It's okay that this one doesn't feel okay, guys, and it's okay to feel a little unsafe on this one. It was scary. With that said, I do feel confident based on the conversations I've had with Chair Clark, both voiced here as well as in the background, that there really is a cross-functional team that's working on this. And I hope more than anything the residents are taking away from this. We hear you. It's not always easy to respond to you directly. We're not always allowed to respond to you directly. Just because you don't see it and it isn't happening here, boy, does it not mean we aren't discussing it. So thank you to the department and to everyone involved. I'm not going to push any further on the questions. I just thought it was important to highlight the other side of the emotional spectrum on this one.
Thank you, Matt. Amy?
Yeah. I appreciate Matt's sentiment about not wanting to give the fire department a little bit of break, but I'm going to remind everyone there's fireworks this weekend, so no break quite yet. I know. Okay, but those are all well planned. There'll be signs and roads will be blocked for no parking. So let's see. And I have another thought too, because when something like this happens, all my neighbors are texting me, what's going on? What's going on? I'm like, well, I could ask the fire chief, but I think he's really busy right now. So I'd rather he wait and notify us when the situation is under control. But I appreciate that you do give us a thorough summary when everything is all said and done. So. And then the questions I had going forward, will there be traffic details now if they need to move heavy trucks out and block the street? Or that will be determined? Because there'll be a lot of trucks, I'm sure.
Yeah, when we get to construction, we'll be looking at the safety there and requiring details whenever that's warranted. And there's requirements for covering a sidewalk and building barriers and so forth.
I saw that they've been blocking the crosswalks and the sidewalk in front of there, so that's great. And then it looks like some damage was probably done to town property for some of the signage and the light poles and things, so the demolition company will have to reimburse us, or their insurance company?
Yes, we've notified our insurance company, so they'll handle that.
So they will work that all out. Okay. All right, I think that's all I have to add, but I appreciate the update from everyone.
Sorry. As a very quick follow-up to Amy's very last point there about insurance, that catches my eye. Up until now, this has all been about the demolition company and the impact it's had, and we've done a very good job of not using the L word, liability. If we file an insurance claim, regardless of who is at fault, much like when I file a car insurance claim, it doesn't matter if it's my fault. I use the service, and they now know that I have used the service, and they are going to charge me more for use of the service in the future. Does this have the potential to impact the town's insurance rates based on the fact that we're making a claim? And if it does, is that something we would consider as we seek recompense from the company?
You know, we file claims with our insurance company as a matter of course. It's best to file something, even if nothing comes of it. It doesn't affect our rates that much if we're not at fault. But there could be an impact. But we're encouraged to do that by our insurance company for a lot of reasons.
I would simply ask that we consider what that delta is as part of what we evaluate and claim.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Chief, thank you for coming up last minute on the spot, but you were here, so I figured it was relevant. So we will be moving on from there. We're going to move on to the Q4 deposit investment report. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Town will receive the fiscal 25 Q4 investment report provided by CJ Paquette. Welcome.
Hello. How is everybody today?
Doing well.
All right. Feels like it's been a while. This is the quarter four for 25, so April to June. The total of deposits for this period was $166,511,403.42. The total interest for all deposits was $1,628,988.95. My comments for this period, we saw some uncertainty in the first month, so in April. We had kind of up and downs in April. But it quickly recovered in May and June. The quarter actually ended up being the most profitable quarter of the year. So even though we had a rough start, and I was like, uh-oh, it bounced back up very quickly. It was an uncertain time. Deposits increased in the month of June dramatically due to proceeds from bond and bond borrowing. Combined, it was a little over 90 million, so that's why it jumped quite a bit this period. Prudent Investor went live on 7/1, so we won't see the effects of that until this coming quarter. This is allowing us to diversify our investments. We're hopeful this will allow better, more stable returns. Being able to invest in a wider range of stocks and portfolios should hopefully limit losses and hopefully grow profits. We were limited to what's called the legal list, and that's only about 10 stocks. So being able to diversify, we're hoping will help us. As a reminder, like I said, prudent investing, which was approved at town meeting this year, allows for much greater investment, diversifying opportunities than what we're allowed now. So where appropriate, prudent investing allows investment managers to use diversified mutual funds, EFTs, individual stocks, bonds, alternative investments, etc. So we are erring on the side of caution at first to kind of see how the first few months play out. So we're still pretty tight in what we're investing in. We don't want to go crazy at first. We want to see how it's working out first. So I thought it'd be important to kind of share what accounts are being prudently invested at the moment. So right now it is just trust funds and perpetual care. So Perpetual Care, McGovern Trust, Sarah B., Crooks Trust, Claflin, Coomey, Roach, and Holman Trust are being invested in this manner. So just a few department notes, department updates while we're here. FY25 real estate bills were demanded on July 15th, and a friendly reminder was mailed out on 8/9, due 9/29. So I'm encouraging residents to check online through Citizen Self-Service Portal to see if they have any balances due for 25. I also had Elaine include a little memo on her most recent town manager's report. A lot of times we see when people refinance or sell a property or buy a property, there could be a slight difference in one of their quarters. So I'd rather people find out about it now than when it's advertised or they have a sticker on their door in December. We are currently at a 98.7% collection rate for FY25 real estate. That should be 99% before the end of the year, which is what we've been at for a pretty significant period. Going into this year, I personally was a little worried that we might not be at that, because taxes are starting to increase. So I'm glad to see that we're still doing really good. We're looking into options of allowing auto payments for all of our bills. We're hoping to have this system up and running early 2026. We're still going to be able to use our same payment vendor. However, they have kind of teamed with me to make a workaround to get this done. So one of our biggest complaints we hear in the office is that we don't have that as an option. And it's due to the fact that we use citizen self-service, which is a great tool. So I don't want to necessarily get rid of that, but I also want people to be able to have auto payment options, which will also help collect our collection rates, and will help with confusion of, oh, I forgot that there was a bill due, or whatever the case may be. So we're working on that. Very hopeful that we find a solution. I'm letting UniPay kind of explore their options, and they have a few other towns that they're testing with. I want them to get through those phases first before we go live with that. And then the last thing, we streamlined our lockbox services in late June, allowing our staff to do online inquiries. So when people pay to our lockbox, we didn't necessarily have a copy of the check or the remittance that they sent. We'd have to request it from the bank, and that was time consuming. So we wanted to have a quicker option to give people answers, instantaneous. So I'd reached out to our vendor and said, hey, is there, something we can do to kind of streamline this? And they did have a solution. So we negotiated. It's not of any cost to the town, which is great. But we're able to go in now and look at images of the checks, stubs that they send, and give them an answer on the spot, basically. So the other part of that is, when somebody sends just a check to Lockbox, the old process was it'd be returned back to us, but that means that that person mailed the check to Lockbox, which, can take a while, and then that check had to be mailed from Lockbox back to us, right? So there's a delay there. So we used to get a lot of calls, hey, I sent in my check, not sure where it is, so we'd have to ask, do you send to Lockbox? Do you send it with a sub? No, we forgot. And so we knew that it was in the process of coming back to us. But with this new system, we're actually able to remotely enter the information for Lockbox, so it's processed the same day. We don't have to wait for it to get back mailed to us. So it's definitely streamlining, and it's helping with less frustration for residents confused where their check is or where their payment may be.
Awesome. Thank you for the update. Kyla, you joined us. You have anything to add? Perfect. Elaine, do you want to start with any thoughts or comments?
No, I appreciate the update and a lot of good information there for residents.
All right. To the board, Amy.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the updates and then how transparent the process is, and the documents are all here. And I'm glad that we're moving forward with maybe some auto payment options, because I think a lot of people will really use that and appreciate it. I know I would. And then the other thing is, I know you say you always put these on the website so people can find them, but I couldn't find this one. So when you get back to your desk, tomorrow, maybe you can send it to me where it is. So.
Oh, find what?
These quarterly investment reports. If somebody wanted to find them on the website, where would they be?
Just on the select board packet.
Oh, so they'd have to go know what packet it was and everything? I think it would be better if they were on the finance page, but sure. Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe on the CFO office side.
Yeah.
Perfect. Matt?
Hi, just to try and top deck this, because I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. We're doing stuff to make money move faster, good better, so payment happen faster for community better.
Yes.
Love hearing that. On the same token, I will take the moment to remind people, that is CJ, that is Kyla. They are two rays of absolute sunshine that we on our best days borderline deserve, and they are not treated kindly by many of you. There have been significant incidents here at Town Hall with people being disrespectful around collections, bills, taxes, and other items. We name no names. That is not the purpose of this. I remind you that many of the people that you encounter in Town Hall are citizens just like you trying to do their job, and you would not appreciate being berated at your job. Last thing here for me, great job on the performance portfolio. Obviously, this is a pretty dynamic, I believe is the phrase you used, uncertain time in the world. What I would love to see looking at this moving forward, when this is going to come again, I'd love to see, and I know it's dynamic, but what are you projecting next quarter is going to look like? How do we perform against that projection? And this is where I'm really looking for a little bit more of your SME, because I want to engage with you here. What recommendations do you have for us? Are there diversifications we should be thinking about? Are there actions you want us to be considering taking from a financial perspective? You are our subject matter experts. We are the policymakers, but we need you to tell us where we should be. So don't hesitate when you come back at future meetings as well. Let us know what we can be doing with the money, but keep hoarding it like a dragon, please.
Yeah, no, thank you for the update, and it's good news in a volatile market. But I wanted to also understand a little bit, and I know the answers, just for everyone's understanding, is the risk is managed by a professional investment group that is assigned by the town, and
Yes.
not any individuals in this room.
Right.
And it's based on the principles of investments that we have laid out, and that's what they follow, based on the best practices, their best judgment and whatnot. There's no direct, hey, I think this stock looks good today, can I call it? It's not that. It's a very disciplined.
It better not be the case.
Professional way of handling the investment.
State law always says safety, liquidity, yield. So safety is always top in mind. This is for investments as well. So they are professionals in the municipal investment world, and they understand those laws very proficiently.
Perfect. That's what I expected. So I wanted to make sure everyone gets that.
And we review it too, of course, to make sure they're doing their job.
That's great. And the only other follow-up I had is you mentioned 98, 99% expected, which is great. Do you foresee any risk? What has been the trend last few years versus this year?
So far, we're doing okay. I mean, I definitely get concerned for the future as we start to, incur debt for the new schools. It does scare me, considering how much people's real estate taxes are going to go up, what's going to happen to that collection rate.
Yeah, point taken. Mine was really recently reassessed, and I saw a big bump as well. But I understand, of course, that's my worry too. Thank you.
Brian?
CG, I think you mentioned that our receipts were up due to some bonds that were coming in or that we went and got for the construction. Did I hear that correctly?
Our total deposits went up because we received the income from the bonds and band. So because we borrowed in June, we basically were paying ourselves back for spending on the new school projects last year and prepaying ourselves a small portion for this year.
Okay, so it's based on prepayments that we were putting back in. Got it. Okay.
Right. So our cash flow right now, or in June, looked really high because we've received all of that money.
Right.
And then, of course, it's going to be spent.
But what we had prepaid, we weren't making interest on that or whatever, getting a return on that, so this is going to balance it.
It's kind of washing.
I guess I was a little confused and concerned that we were getting that money in for the schools, $80 million or whatever it was, and we were going to go out and make a boon, on returns quickly and then start to get used to that. But I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah, so we borrow once a year. So what happened was last year, we basically covered the cost of the school building project with our funds, and then we were repaying ourselves.
Great. Thank you for clarifying. I'm all set. Thank you.
Perfect. I don't have any additional questions. Appreciate you guys always coming and giving these updates. I do like the suggestion about making it more accessible outside of the select board packet, but otherwise, keep it up. Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, so next we're going to do some board and committee appointments. The board will consider making the appointments to the following boards and committees. Regional Vocational School Committee, we have 2 vacancies, one term expiring 6/30/26 and the other expiring 6/30/28. We have 2 applicants for that, Brendan Tedstone, Sabine St. Pierre. Cultural Council, 2 vacancies, 2 3-year terms, and we have 2 applicants, Mary J. Benning and Laura Calderwood. Hopkinton Historic District Commission, 1 vacancy with a term expiring 6/30/28, and it looks like Shweta Agarwal for that. And then Historical Commission, 2 associate member vacancies with terms expiring 6/30/26 and 6/30/28, and the applicant for that is Shweta Agarwal as well. So it looks like we have no competing. We have plenty of vacancies for applicants. So I'll look for the board if, comments or if, they'd like to make a motion to just approve. For me, thank you for everyone that's, stepped up to volunteer their time for these positions. Amy, you want to start?
Yeah, I think our only decision point is for the Keefe Tech, the terms expire at different times, so we'd have to choose who gets the term expiring in 2028 versus 2026.
Yep. And so I believe we have both of those applicants here. If they'd like to come join us and put their input in on who would take which one.
Honestly, arm wrestle.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So if you want to introduce yourselves, for anyone listening at home, but.
Go ahead.
Brendan Tedstone, 45 Pleasant Street.
Sabine St. Pierre, One Woody Island.
Awesome. So like I said, appreciate you both volunteering. It really just comes down to the different term expirations. So however you two, if you two'd like to work something out, the board will be supportive, but we appreciate you both for being here, sticking through the meeting.
Yeah, we just had a quick little conversation. I think we're fairly impartial, so.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So sitting on this side of the bench, I will be amenable to anything. On your side, I was never amenable to anything. So I will, whatever Sabine wants, I'll take the other one. It doesn't matter. I mean, my goal is to get on there in the queue for a new school, and having been on the two elementary school building committees here, that I think I bring a lot to that. My son's a sophomore. Her son's a freshman there. I'm an alum, and just looking to do whatever's best for the town with Keefe Tech. So
Perfect.
Doesn't matter to me one way or the other. If I get the 1 year, I'll be here next year. If I get the 3 year, I'll be here in 3 years to seek re-election.
Same. My son's a freshman, and, and I'm probably my youngest son will end up there too, so I'll probably be around for a while. So I'm happy to take the 1 year, and he can do the 3, and then I'll be back here next year.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you both.
Do
Okay.
you want me to make a motion then? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to appoint Brenda Tedstone to a term expiring June 30th, 2028, and Sabine St. Pierre for a term expiring June 30th, 2026.
Second?
Do we want to do them all?
I want to do them all at once.
Sure. Motion to appoint Mary J. Benning and Laura Calderwood to the Cultural Council to terms expiring September 9th, 2028. Motion to approve Shravata Agarwal to the Hopkinton Historic District Commission to a term expiring June 30th, 2028. Motion to appoint Shravata Agarwal as an associate member of the Historical Commission to a term expiring June 30th, 2028.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chair, a comment if I could, please. I think it's great that we have two folks going to the regional vocational school who have a direct connection to that school and the school committee that they would be joining now. We have a great school committee here in Hopkinton. We have great connections between the school committee members and the students. We have great connections now with the Keefe Tech parents and students, and I think it's a really great win for the town. I don't remember it being this way in the past. So that's really, I think, a good setup for us.
If I could just say one more quick thing. So the person that I'm replacing was Ruth Knowles, Mrs. Knowles, who's also
my neighbor.
From your neighborhood. I don't know if her side door is open. But she has been on the Keefe Tech School Committee since, I think, 1978. She was there when I was there. I graduated with her son. She did a ton of work, a ton of promotion when Keefe Tech was not the sexy alternative to go to. She really put her heart and soul into the school. So I think we'd be doing her a disservice by not mentioning and saying thanks for the 40, almost 50 years of work that she's done. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that call out. Thank you. That is great recognition, and that is tremendous service to the town and to that school. So, your comment?
Guys, there's only like 20 houses on Curtis Road. Get great. Just quickly here to Brendan and Sabine. This is under me for liaison this year. I've been talking in the background with John Evans about getting over. I was going to mention this during liaison report out, but they're actually opening a restaurant over there. So why don't the three of us consider maybe going over and having a bite to eat and meeting with the director and talking about how we can make some magic. Thank you. Me three. We're all great.
Any additional comments from the board?
I just want to thank all the volunteers, and especially good to see Brendan coming back to this after his service, and Sabine has been very active too, so has been others, and for their interest to join the board again and continue their service in some shape or form. And as Mr. Herr mentioned, they'll be a great addition because of their connection to the school as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Perfect. So we have a motion and a second, so we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. So thank you again to everyone that volunteered for those boards and committees. All right, so next we are going to go through our legal counsel services. So I think...
Chair, before you begin, I'm going to recuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herr. So while Mr. Herr is recusing himself, so I think it was August 12th, we did the interviews for 4 candidates. You know, we've talked a little bit about this. So tonight, you know, this is kind of our regroup and chance to discuss as a board. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the town manager's office to give us, you know, we ran all of the reference checks and we've got kind of a, I believe, a summary for each applicant. And if we want to start there, if you can kind of walk through each one, and from there we will have, you know, I'll have the board go through one at a time and just share, you know, let's start with the things you liked about the applicants, and potentially after that, you know, we can discuss what the process should be for finalizing, you know, in a scenario in which every board member has, you know, a top choice that's the same. To me, it would make sense to just move forward then and not drag this out. But if that is not the case, we can talk about whether it makes sense to have some of the finalists come back for an additional interview. So that's how we're going to do this. So Lance, if you don't mind kind of walking us through the references.
Sure. So yeah, I just wrote up a brief summary of the conversations we had. So 3 references communities were contacted for each of the RFQ respondents. All feedback received was very positive, and each town manager or administrator interviewed indicated they would be willing to hire the firm again. However, of note, of the 2 communities that responded for Brooks and Durensis, despite glowing reviews from the town managers, one had recently switched to a different firm, and the other was in the process of doing so. Another distinction of note was that the billing structures were fairly evenly distributed between hourly and retainer, although all communities felt they received good value for their investment. Hourly communities appeared to be more cautious and restrictive of their use of legal services due to concerns about potential budget overages. In contrast, those on retainer felt they saved money overall and experienced a significant improvement in service. I've also prepared just a list of bullet pointed quotes for each one of the that I received for each one of the firms, if you'd like to read some of those.
Yeah.
All right, great. So from KP Law, some of the quotes are highly responsive, whether email, text, or phone call. They are extremely knowledgeable, and you would be hard-pressed to find any legal area of weakness. I would hire them again without hesitation. The board is equally satisfied. KP Law has a deep bench of attorneys with experience in many towns. Most questions are not novel to them. Recently, our select board unanimously and unprompted decided to appoint them for a 3-year term instead of the traditional 1-year term. Harrington Heap. They were our top choice by a large margin. Easy to work with and flexible, very responsive and thorough, interacts well with town staff, availability and participation in board meetings has been very helpful and well received. Mead, Tallerman, and Costa. Always add value to the conversation, very straightforward. Impress the planning board even when they didn't agree with the answer, or even when they didn't like the answer. Jay is the moderator in his town, so our town moderators benefit and rely on his experience. I have plenty of things to worry about, but legal counsel is not one of them. Brooks and Durensis, incredibly responsive, calls me back anytime. He cares very much about relationships. Paul is considered an expert in municipal law. Noemi is awesome, very good at asking what the parameters are and getting to the core of the issue. They have a wide array of attorneys that were able to assist us with many uncommon situations. So overall, very positive feedback from everyone who we spoke to about all 4.
Perfect. So with that, if, we'll go down to the board, kind of same thing. I'd like everyone to just go through, like I had notes of what I liked about each candidate. So if we can kind of talk about that, and then, if you have a top choice, it would be great to put out. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that's fine, but I think that would help move things up if you do. So Shidul, would you like to start and share some of your feedback?
I think I'll have to pull up my document if you want to.
Okay.
take the next one, or pull it up in time?
Yeah, sure. So I'd be happy to. So just kind of running through here. So Brian Bertram came to represent for Harrington Heap, along with my notes say Jenny with 2 exclamation points. So hi, Jenny. They obviously represented themselves well, and they are aware of the issues in town. We're going to stay positive here, so I'm just looking at my notes. For me, one of the things that I always enjoy about Brian is that he speaks with authenticity about humility and transparency, and he affirms that citizens are in charge, and I thought that was important to hear from him as well. KP Law, I liked a lot of what I hear. I like that they were weaving in new mass laws as part of their services, and they were very comfortable discussing that with us. It felt very future-focused and improvement-focused, like they were ready to grow with us and that they understood that the law of the Commonwealth was a living entity. Not that the others didn't, but they made that really clear to me. Right. I also appreciated that I asked each town council that we interviewed about essentially something they knew about our last town meeting. Harrington Heap obviously knew, Brian was there. They also had a positive response to this. They actually mentioned about our MBTA zoning and the passage there. To me, that's just showing the nature of the diligence they did before they chose to come before us, and I take that as being a significant thing. As you noted, they have a deep bench, and I was also impressed when they spoke about that. I like that they were largely municipal as well. Brooks and Durantis, I did find them impressive as well, though I shared some concerns about the overall personality. I know I am of a bombastic nature, but thankfully I am not a lawyer. I do worry about that sort of bombast from our legal representation and whether or not that's really where we want to be. But it was very clear to me that that was a wildly knowledgeable individual. I would benefit from spending literally any amount of time listening to them talk about this. And then the last one, Mead, Tellerman, and Costa, I genuinely enjoyed. I mean, I can be selfish and transparent about it. I was talking to each group about meeting time, and I was kind of using it as like a little bit of a threat about, our town's different, we know the rules, we follow stuff. And then, of course, to find out that he is the active editor of Meeting Time. Look, that's just one thing, but it goes to the subject matter expertise that the individual clearly has around town meeting, which from my perspective is one of the single most important services that the council provides. Obviously, during the course of the year, there are executive committee and other things that come up, but we do our bread and butter business at town meetings, so I really appreciated that that SME was absolutely on display. I like the flat fee. You mentioned that those who were on retainer felt like they were getting a value. I did like that this was a flat fee. And then last here, and this was my last note, litigation being down for them was highlighted twice as a point of pride. That's exactly what I don't expect to hear from a lawyer, but that's what I want my lawyer to sound like.
Awesome, thank you, Matt. We'll come back to a straw poll after everyone's kind of shared their thoughts. Amy, would you like to go?
Yeah, to echo Matt's comment about the retainer, I know Norman was always very happy that we had the retainer and felt we got our money's worth and that we used the lawyer. We were able to get more use out of the town council by having the retainer, not to think every time whether we're going to incur an extra expense for a minor routine thing. So it's interesting to hear the other towns preferred that too. I did have some concerns about some of the other councils representing other towns that we have active agreements with. Especially the one firm, I think it was the Mead, Tellerman, Costa represents Southborough and Ashland, both of which we have IMAs for water connections. And we also have IMA with Westborough for sewer. So that gave me pause because I think the water issue is going to be our big issue for the next few years. And if they had to recuse themselves for that, I think that could be problematic, even though they presented very well at the interviews. Let's see. And were you able to share which firms had people that were leaving them, even though they gave them positive reviews, or we can't share that?
Which firms were they left for?
Well, you said they were leaving from some of these.
So the two that I spoke to in regards to Brooks and Durantis, you're asking?
Well, I don't know who it was.
Yeah, so one had recently left and transferred to a new firm, and one was in the process of undergoing a similar RFQ process that we're now undergoing.
Okay. And I agree they all had good town meeting experience. Clearly, they knew their stuff around town meeting. Yeah, so I have that concern about the one that represents Southborough.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Shadul?
Yeah, won't go to elaborate, but I think in general, I like the responses from all of them, their professional background and their exposure and experience and the answers for the most part. I thought that Harrington Heap certainly stood out, knowing the town and have been serving us on various complex matters, which I think comes out and is important to understand and is connected to the town's issues, and they have served well too. That kind of goes into account. I like the KP Law, their responses as well, and they have a pretty significant portfolio and a big service for majority of the municipals around us as well, and sounds like the feedback was also very good with their references. So definitely they stood out. Brooks and DeRensis, I admired their opinions and background and overall, but they seem to be a little short on the portfolio size, especially on the municipal end. That kind of struck out. And I appreciated their bold statements on on the principal side, on the being on the right side, which is certainly important, and we all want to do that. But I thought that the portfolio appeared to be pretty limited. And then Mead, Taylorman, and Costa, they also had a good portfolio, and their responses were also very professional, and I liked how they handled some of the cases that they mentioned about, I think regarding the water-related issues. So all in all, I generally have ranking in mind when we share that we can. But one thing I was wondering is that usually for these selections, it would be good to have, if we all feel ready tonight, that's great. If not, given the feedback, if we can have those in some form of writing. I like building like a matrix of the key criteria and based on our questions, and we can kind of juxtapose all four and see how the matrix scores out for each of them based on our priorities and criteria, and give that back to maybe Elaine and Lance to compile, and that way we can have a overarching scoring and feedback consolidated for discussion and then vote. That would be my little off-track recommendation for the decision process.
Perfect. Thank you. So I will go quick, and then I'll hand it over to Elaine to kind of give the town hall's perspective on this, because obviously you are the ones that work with council the most. But for starters, we had Harrington Heap. They are obviously our general counsel, so they know us very well. They've been involved for a lot of things. We know that they focus on communication and avoiding litigation. At least they try to, as best they can. We talked about Donna Brewer, being an expertise in, the DPU and tax abatement. I think that's a really strong asset there. So, I was happy to have them back and present for us. KP Law, obviously, it seems like a very large firm, tons of municipal experience. I believe they said 98% of their clients was municipalities. So they know the ins and outs. I see that a large law firm, there's pros and cons to that, right? You get a lot of good benefits, some other things that you may not. But overall, it's, they certainly do a good job of clearly in the interview, they kept us up to date on, they mentioned how they have a dedicated team that stays up to date with municipal and state laws and provide updates regularly to their clients. They cited the DPU specific examples of, I think, Oxford and Nantucket, very knowledgeable. Brooks and DeRensis, clearly a wealth of experience there. I thought Paul was one of the more interesting guys that we had that evening. Clearly, combine his, law background with, I think he said 10 terms as a selectman, so he kind of knows both sides of it. That was a very unique perspective. I think he, volunteered some insight into a new alcohol law. So clearly there was a proactive nature there from him. And then, Mead, Tallerman, and Costa, extremely strong reputation. A lot of our neighbors use them. You know, as Amy mentioned, I think that goes to show, you know, they know this area. They obviously know Hopkinton, you know, through some of those sides of their clients working next door to us and with us. But I really liked their overall like presentation, just the way they held themselves. You know, one of the lawyers, I believe, I forget if it was Liz's name, you know, she talked about both experience working for the DPU and then also in-house counsel for, I forget the town in Southern Mass, but, you know, just a broad experience. And I believe Jay came from KP Law, so there's, you know, a lot of commonalities between these things. I certainly thought all of them could, you know, serve Hopkinton well. But that was my kind of summary. So with that, you know, Elaine, I know you kind of got to talk to multiple people inside of Town Hall, and you guys kind of put together a collective idea, you know, things that you liked, and would you mind sharing that with everyone?
Sure. Thank you. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been looking at our past invoices of the last couple of years and the hours that are spent on various types of things to try to analyze, you know, what's our utilization, thinking about retainer versus other fee structures, but also the kinds of work that any counsel would be doing for us. Turns out, you know, litigation is a pretty small portion of what we do. Most of it is the regular day-to-day business of Town Hall. So I've looked at the utilization of services over the last few years, you know, what the hours have been, identifying the areas of need and importance of areas to staff and the entire organization. And most of the time is on the non-litigation side. We've done a really good job of reaching out to town council early with what seem to be minor questions sometimes, but they can lead to a bigger issue if not addressed right away. And I think that has helped to reduce our litigation, which has been very, very good for the town in the long run. And I reached out to staff who have used counsel for major projects and key issues for feedback on all of the 4 firms. And we heard what was stated at the interviews and read what was provided in the proposals. And I think it's really important to point out that we are fortunate to have 4 excellent firms who have expressed interest in working for the town, and that's really great, but it makes our decision really hard. So I think boiling down what I heard from staff and what we read in the proposals and saw at the interviews, so what's important to us are the confidence in the advice of counsel, so confident in what we're hearing and digesting what we're saying, what we're explaining, and then giving back to us advice with confidence. It's important that we receive quality service. We're confident we have quality service we can move forward with. Responsiveness is also very important. If something's urgent or if something's not urgent, being mindful of what that is and working with each other on being responsive in that time frame. Also, town meeting knowledge, preparation in advance, which occurs for months in advance of town meeting, and then the service that's provided on site. So right now, staff is preparing the warrant and the motions, and it's reviewed by council, and that has worked very well for us with our current council. I think towns do it different ways, and maybe more than 5 years ago, it was our council was actually doing the work, and it's a much better process now that we've been trained, we know how to do it all, and that's really helpful because we don't have the documents going back and forth with council, which is sometimes a problem. And also, the other important area of importance is the basic approach to providing council services overall, the fairness to all parties, the collaborative nature of the attorneys, and understanding Hopkinton's needs. So when we're presented with an issue that's maybe of conflict, of potential litigation, for example, we want to talk about how we can solve the problem without advancing it too far, without costing the town additional resources, providing, you know, an off-ramp for that litigation, not allowing it to continue if it doesn't need to. And so, you know, we need a council that will work with all parties. In the town, it's the other party who's either complaining or threatening litigation or has an issue that needs to be resolved, and treating every aspect of that process with, fairness in the approach. I think that's really important to us. And being collaborative with staff and with boards who have questions. It's not just staff who reaches out with questions, but it's boards as well. So it's the planning board, it's Conservation Commission, it's the select board, it's lots of boards.
Open space.
And so it's just understanding those needs. So I think we're really fortunate to have good choices here.
Awesome.
But that's what's important to the staff side.
Perfect. All right. So I think, everyone's on the same page from, we've got great candidates. So now it's how do we move forward? How do we narrow this down? I would like to do, I know it's challenging when you have this many candidates, but like a straw poll of this would be my top choice, or we could do top two if that's easier. Because I'm very comfortable with moving forward to an additional meeting where we have, two finalists come back. I'd like to avoid having more than two. I think that's not a good use of their time, and I would feel bad about that. But I think we need to start with just see where the board's and the town hall's perspective is on this from a starting point, and then we can discuss some more. I know, Shidul, I liked your comments about encompassing the references into more of a data format so that you can kind of add that criteria. So with that, if someone would like to start with, a top selection, I think that would get us moving. Well,
how heavy is a penguin? Just heavy enough to break the ice. So for me, I did have a clear top choice. It was me, Tellerman, and Costa. My only concern, it is so clear they know the issues of towns like ours, but are we forever going to be underserved due to them being conflicted out? That is my only fear, but otherwise I viewed them as being a nice amalgamation of the experience of KP Law, but bringing us a little bit of the smaller feel and customer service that the other two firms advertised.
thank you, Matt. Amy?
I think my top two would be KP Law and Harrington and Heap. I just can't get past that conflict with so many neighboring towns for me, even though I really liked them at the meeting. I think that would cause too many conflicts.
Shadow?
Yeah, my top two would be also along those lines, KP Law and Harrington Cape. I like them all, as we discussed, but I think they stood out for KP Law for the portfolio and for their deep experience in the municipal, and Harrington Cape for similar, as well as having the connection and having dealing with them, going through some of the response that we have, or I would say speed of response and the billing hours. All those, I think, shows how efficiently they've tried to manage, and also they have gone through a path of learning in some cases. So I think that counts for some of the points, additional points for them.
So through the chair, I did have KP Law as my second choice. I apologize for not mentioning that in real time.
That's fine. We don't need to. I asked for top choice. So I think for me, I share a lot of same thoughts. I'm very confident that all four of these could serve as counsel for us. But, the feel I got from Mead, Tollerman, and Costa would put them as my top choice. I just like kind of the combination of experience and feel there. Putting aside the, IMA issues, I think, which would be, we would require special counsel. Another thing I want to call out before we move on to Elaine is, there was a lot of talk about, the retainer approach. I believe all four candidates gave multiple proposals, retainer, hourly rate. So that's kind of a secondary step to, selecting counsel and then moving forward, correct?
Correct, although the amount of the retainer was different.
Different, yep.
And we can't talk about
Yeah.
that. That's confidential.
At this point.
At this point.
Through the chair, Elaine. That's why I think when we meet the next time, it would be good to have, I'm almost visualizing, and I'm very structured in this type of vendor RFP management, like a tabular form, putting all of them, putting the priorities, and putting the cost structure, and perhaps we have some data baseline based on our utilization last couple of years, projecting those, how it would look for each of those. That would give us real impactful numbers, that A is going to cost X dollars versus B, it's going to cost Y dollars.
Yeah,
possible.
That's a good point. And again, I still want to come back to your opinion. I think it's clear we're not on the same page. I don't see us moving forward tonight. I think we need to now talk about, and you can give your opinion in a second from the town hall, but I think we need to figure out how to, create 2 finalists and have them come back. Makes the most sense to me. Anyone have a problem with going that approach? I think then we could probably incorporate some of this, that what you're asking for, make it more quantifiable.
From the next round.
But, sorry to cut you off.
So our top 2 are Harrington, Mead, Tellerman, Costa.
So, I mean, everyone's kind of had support for, it's really a top 3. If you look at Harrington Heat, Mead, Tellerman, Costa, and KP. So, again, my initial thoughts were 2 finalists would be easier, but it might be appropriate to do 3, but I want to hear from the board members first. I don't want to waste people's times, but this is an important decision for the town, and I'd rather spend more time than not.
Joe, did you have 2 choices or just the one? Did you give 2 choices or 1?
I just gave the 1.
Just the 1.
Oh, sorry, you gave Mead Tellerman, right?
Mead Tellerman.
Yeah. What's your number 2?
I mean, I was kind of up in the air between Brooks and Durensis and Harrington Heap. I thought, I don't know, for me, it's, part of this is, does the town need a change in this? I know change is, often a scary thing, but I think, for everything we've gone through, it might be appropriate. So again, that brings me back to 2 or 3 finalists. And what does everyone think about moving forward? Shidel, do you have initial thoughts on what's appropriate?
Yeah, I think I'm fine with either, actually. And I think adding 1 more would not be too costly time-wise, in my view. If that makes sense, maybe 3 we can go for. But I'm fine with 2 as well.
Okay. Matt?
So I hesitate to get too far into the weeds of numbers and matrices here, but I think there's probably value in us aligning on what our criteria and considerations are before we think about who we're bringing back. It is entirely possible that once we get aligned on what the criteria and our mutual assessment expectations are, that we will be able to sort this back out to 2. I think bringing a 3rd group back, especially one that's already employed and well-known to the town, we're doing ourselves a disservice. We know who they are.
Okay. Amy?
I think we should narrow it to 2. I don't think we should bring 3 back. Yeah.
Okay. Elaine, what are your thoughts? And Lance?
I think it's easier to bring back 2 than 3.
Okay. I mean, I kind of like Matt's point about if we're bringing them back, if we only bring back the 2 new potential clients, does that exclude Harrington Heat from our final decision? Because, they were top choice for town manager's office and second choice for 2 of the board members. So for the sake of time, I get what Matt was saying. I don't know if that's practical, though.
I'll yield to you. I think we need to take it back offline. We need to do some work in the background to come up with our assessment criteria, as Shadul's noted, and I think we need to bring it back to this forum to have a public discussion. Not a public forum, excuse me, but a discussion in public as the select board about our criteria and next steps.
I like that. I think, so Matt, if I heard you, let's structure it among us, provide the input, and then discuss it in the next meeting, and then maybe decide which 2 we want to bring back.
Yep.
Amy?
Okay, so we each bring back our key criteria, and next time we'll be able to rank them. I hadn't ranked mine. I picked 2, but I didn't rank the 1 versus 2.
I think we have a quick dialogue in the background about what are the criteria we align with.
Well, we
can't have a dialogue.
Can't do it in the
No,
background.
sorry, we can't have a dialogue.
It's different. But I think what Amy's saying is criteria individually, come back, discuss.
Thank you, better idea.
And then, we decide. Elaine, I want your input on this.
I think the cost should also be one of the criteria.
Correct.
Because there is a difference in cost, which we may or may not have budgeted.
So will that be able to be shared? I know we've seen it, but will that be able to be shared? And then
we can add that as one of your criteria and discuss it at the meeting.
Okay. All right. I think that makes the most sense. Put all this criteria together, individually come with it. And we need to follow up, our next meeting's in 2 weeks, so as quickly as possible. Everyone good with that?
Yep.
So we're gonna each come up with our own criteria and a ranking of criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we're going to have to discuss the criteria. We already have kind of the inputs, I think, if you go through. And, just thinking out loud, like if I have, I'm going to, pick 5 areas of, criteria that I'm going to base or rank them off of, I'm going to come with that. And, I think I would hope that we can, spend 20, 30 minutes like we did tonight and go through them live, or do people might need more time after that? We can discuss then. I think for the sake of time now, like the plan is to just come back prepared to talk about the criteria and how we finalize it to 2.
Can I just ask quickly, since we're still in public and we're still talking about this, we can in theory quickly have a discussion about criteria as we are in public still?
You absolutely can.
Just so high level, guys. Cost, accessibility, in terms of how responsive do we think they'll be? Subject matter expertise. Let's at least just start with those 3: cost, responsiveness, and subject matter expertise. And if you have any other custom criteria, let's bring it, let's discuss it as a board. But those 3 definitely ballpark us, and that should help us start a nice conversation of common alignment.
Yeah, I like those through the chair. And I think we actually have an easy way out for the criteria. If I remember, we asked the same 5 questions to all of them.
Yeah.
So those are essentially our main criteria. That's why we asked them.
Yep.
And that pretty much covers, most of the items that Matt mentioned. I remember of course, background, experience, cost, and then we asked specifically for certain areas which are the community management or communication. So we can sort those out based on those probably, and then see if there are any other outliers that we want to include.
Yeah, so I have right in front of me the questions that were asked to each of them, like the numbers. And so I can share those now, everyone. And again, this might be a little bit more homework, but go through and based off my notes, I could base it on, hey, I like this answer the best. So it's giving us more criteria than less. Might get messy, but might be something to come prepared with. And
So to add to what others have put for criteria, I really am concerned about them representing too many bordering towns. Multiple of them represented multiple neighboring towns. So that's a concern of mine. It sounds like it's not as highly ranked for some of you. But so if we were to pick one that had a neighboring town as a client, I would like to know what the plan would be, how we would hire one of the other ones during those times, or what would we do?
Through the chair, excellent point. So we have some of that information, right, through the discussions we had, or should we cross-check with some of the references as well, if anything?
It was in all their packets which towns they represented, so.
yeah, but I think Amy's point was more, because we do have what towns are kind of a, potential conflict. I think it's more so, if we were to go down that path, what would the remedy be? Like, how do we work around that? I know we talked about special counsel, specifically like Ashland and Southborough, we have upcoming IMAs. That would, we know off the top that would be special counsel. Really my only concern there would be, just from this experience, I think the retainer approach makes the most sense for the town. So special counsel would be an additional cost that we could then factor into the overall cost perspective. We have their retainers, and we could maybe get an estimation on what that cost looked like, based off previous IMA hours. We've got a good breakdown from the spreadsheet today on hours spent.
Yeah, I think the cost breakdown analysis or scenario projection would be helpful.
Yeah.
We already have, what was it, like 100 in litigation hours and 500 in non-litigation hours. So take that as a baseline and project it out.
So I think just like for the record, so we had for FY25, 640 total billable hours, and 467 of them fell under retainer. So, about 2/3. So that's a starting point. So Amy, does that make sense? That part of the conversation to me is going to turn into a cost piece, right? We'll have their retainer cost, and then special counsel will be additional. So you could factor into that criteria as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know this, like, we're going through a lot live here. Is everyone kind of comfortable with this idea of coming back in 2 weeks with some of this? Any
Yeah,
additional
I think
thoughts?
it's very important decision, and we want to be also transparent and fair. So we want to make sure we have all the right information to make the decision in the right structured way, and we can analyze that and come back next time.
Yeah. And then last but not least, I'm sure no one in town will use the next 2 weeks to offer their thoughts, suggestions, feedback, or otherwise notions about how they feel about this, and I hope they don't. But you know where I am. Thank you.
Amy, any additional thoughts? Elaine and Lance, any additional thoughts before we?
Would you like us to compile everything in a presentation form for the next meeting?
That would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
So we'll be reaching out for something for you to fill in.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So I think we're covered there. I think that moves us on to the town manager report. Elaine? Lance?
Okay, thank you. We should bring Brian back, though.
Oh, yeah.
So for the town manager report this evening, first of all, the Main Street Corridor project is moving along. Verizon is now committed to be on site 4 days a week. They're working Tuesday through Friday. They're working on the west side of the project. Their work there is complete, except for one pole near the corner of Summer Street that has to stay until the undergrounding is activated. And they're looking at mid-October to complete all of the work. And that includes removing poles as well. Additional landscaping changes are still pending, still uncertain as to whether landscaping can go in this fall or whether that needs to wait till next spring because of the planting schedule and the plants that may be available at that time. Any questions on that?
Nope.
No? Okay. Second is the Purdue-Sackler and secondary opioid settlement agreement. So the Massachusetts Attorney General's office has agreed to join settlements with Purdue Pharma and its owners, the Sackler family, and opioid manufacturers Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hikma, Invidior, Mylan, Sun, and Zydus, which they described in a press release recently. And as with the previous settlements that the town has signed on to, Massachusetts municipalities have the opportunity to participate in these new settlements. Generally, the more communities that participate, the more funds will flow to the community. And so if all of the communities respond, then the state will get the maximum amount possible in abatement funds. And these are intended to compensate. They're abatement funds, they're compensation. It's not taxpayer money, it's money that's provided by these companies because of the harm that was caused. And it supports opioid addiction treatment, prevention, and recovery programs. So Hopkinton participated in the 2 prior settlements and is currently receiving funding from those. There's a town working group called HOPE, Hopkinton Opioid Prevention and Engagement, which is developing and reviewing requests for funding and programs, and they're currently managing those funds in a special account. So I'm recommending that we participate in the new settlements and request that the board vote to authorize the town manager to sign on to those new 2 settlement agreements on behalf of the town. And we won't know how much we'll be getting until all of the communities in the state have the opportunity to sign on and that amount is known. But it would be something to go toward the same programs that we're working on today.
Perfect. I don't see any reason we wouldn't adopt this. Any comments from the board, though? Because we need a motion for this one.
That was my only concern, is there a drawback or potential cost exposure to the town for participating? If it's free, it's for me.
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a motion.
Yeah, motion to participate as described.
Motion to authorize town manager to sign the Purdue-Sackler and secondary opioid settlement agreements on behalf of the town.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Okay, thank you, Elaine.
And before we leave this subject, I just want to note that this is Recovery Month, and Youth and Family Services they had a documentary shown last week, which was fantastic, There's still opportunities to see that documentary, which is called Recovery City. Online, there are screenings that are listed there, and they have a play coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So a lot planned for Recovery Week. Wanted to mention that Porch Fest is back, and we have some literature here from them, just advertising that. This year, the event features musicians performing outdoors at various locations around the center of town. One of those will be Town Hall, and the other will be the library. So that's Saturday afternoon. We'll have musicians there. So encourage everyone to participate if they can. Same day as Family Day, so you can go back and forth. And be a nice day in the center of town. Looking forward to it. So I'll be here. I'll be the on-site person for our musicians as well.
Are there specific
My house
times?
is one of the locations too, so, yeah, so you guys can come to my house too.
I was going to ask for like those two town locations. Are there specific times?
So in front of Town Hall, there's 3 musicians, one between 1 and 2, one from 2:15 to 3:15, and one from 3:30 to 4:30.
Did you say you're performing?
No, that will not be happening, but I'll be here. I'll be their on-site person in case there's any issue.
There are also locations at the Center for the Arts and I think 103 Hayden Row. So I think there's 5 locations, 5 or 6 locations, plus Family Day. You can get food trucks and fireworks.
Yep, and there's also in Ashland as well, if you want to travel to Ashland too. I just wanted to note too that there's a PFAS public community forum on next Tuesday, the 16th at 6:30 p.m. at the library. It will feature Sean McAuliffe, Health Director, Carrie Reed, DPW Director, and the Chair of the Board of Health, Nasiba Manan, will be having some remarks and some opening remarks there as well. So look forward to seeing people there. It will be on HCAM as well. Next is the resident sand and salt pile. So as you remember, last year there was an issue of its location on Fruit Street on the town's property there, being within the Water Resources Overlay District and near the town's wells. In response to that, we had purchased some covered bins that we hoped would be an alternative, but they didn't survive the weather, unfortunately. So the only solution we have to provide that is to locate it on other town property or build a compliant structure that can contain the material and not be open to the weather. We looked at other town properties and we don't have any for this purpose that are outside of our Water Resources Protection District, which covers most of the town. So this year, we're not going to have the resident pile that's there. We will still do the Salt for Seniors program provided by the DPW, working with their partners at the Senior Services and Fire Department. So that will continue, but we won't be able to have the pile this year. If we want to go ahead and reinstate that at that location or another town location, we'll have to look at funding a building and permitting for that building. That's something we want to continue.
And through the chair, Elaine, this is because to prevent any contamination.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. You just can't have it at these locations.
Do we have any estimate on what a building cost would look like?
Not yet, but we're entering the budget process, so we'll be looking at that.
Perfect.
That's something the town could pursue. So, I mean, residents will still be able to get those materials at local Home Depot and Lowe's, those kinds of places.
Is there any way of knowing how many residents use this in previous years?
We don't know. I think it depends, weather dependent also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need a better answer on this than just it's not going to be.
We're about to find out.
No, I'm sorry. Through the chair, I don't think it's acceptable to just say we can't do it because we've discovered that there is a safety concern and a contamination concern. I'm not saying we ignore those things. I think we need to be having a discussion about a more active solution. It is highly likely that there are people in this community who are dependent on that. I don't want to be looking at people in this town and saying you can go to Lowe's. That's not the expectation.
All right. I have a feeling this is going to be a future agenda item.
Okay.
Very soon.
All right. Finally, we have some town department position vacancies that have opened up, and so asking for those to be posted. The first is a van driver position at the Senior Services Department, which is vacant due to resignation. The second is an administrative assistant in the Human Resources and Town Clerk's offices, which will be vacant tomorrow due to the promotion of Mary Zanaya to the Human Resources Generalist position. And the public safety dispatcher, we have one position that will be vacated in October due to resignation, and the other is a new position. So one of the things that we talked about with the union members and also with others in the department is that in order to improve service to the community so we have 8 public safety dispatchers full-time and other per diem dispatchers. And it's very difficult to cover all of the shifts for 24/7, 7 days a week with 8 full-time people and a number of part-time people. It's been very difficult to fill, especially the weekend shifts. And so the employees have asked us to consider solutions to that. And one solution is to add a full-time position and which would reduce the amount of overtime that we pay, and also the per diem hours. And so the cost would be a wash, essentially, or it may even be cost advantageous to the town to add one position to reduce overtime and per diem costs that we were incurring because it's difficult to fill the shifts and we're forcing people and paying overtime.
Yep. Through the chair, Mr. Rod's been here highlighting the challenges of this group on a number of occasions. As we think about potentially putting another FTE into their headcount, however you want to hear it, I want to highlight something that she has brought to our attention a few times, which is that dispatchers and communication are a feeder for some of our other departments as well. So investing an actual town headcount position into dispatch, not only does it potentially reduce some of the overtime payment, that potentially is an investment in our own growth pipeline for the fire department and the police department as well. So I just wanted to highlight that there is more than just the current problem. That is an opportunity for us to be developing a long-term town asset.
Okay, thank you.
And that's it.
Does anyone else have any questions around the vacancies? We need a motion.
So Elaine, the one that you want to add the position, was that in the budget for FY26?
It wasn't a position that was listed there, but it would be covered by the funds that were voted at town meeting because we'd be reducing the overtime and the per diem dispatchers hours.
So the dollars are there, but the head count isn't there per se. I mean, we don't vote head count, we vote dollars.
Correct.
But was there some discussion prior to town meeting about needing this position?
I don't recall that there was a discussion here, but it's something that Megan has talked about for a long time and that the employees have talked about for a long time. The employees really need some help.
So you don't see it as a change in the budgeted price or the budgeted amount for that department for FY26? Okay, thank you.
I have no questions. I'll look for a motion on this one.
I got it. I move to, Brian?
I move to authorize the, do you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
I move to authorize the posting of the senior services van driver, administrative assistant, human resources, town clerk, and 2 public safety dispatch positions.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any comments from the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
And 1 abstention. Okay. I think that covers the town manager report, so we're going to move on to liaison reports. Amy, would you like to start here?
Sure. For liaison reports, I think CPC is having their quarterly meeting coming up here in September, so I'll try to attend that. And then the MAPC, their fall meeting is coming up, and I'm also going to try to attend that. It's easier sometimes to do liaisons and upcoming events to invite it together. Is that fine? Okay, so just like Elaine mentioned, the Porch Fest is coming up and Family Day, and then also the following week, the 22nd, is the Art on the Trail is opening on Center Trail. And then I had the honor of attending the opening unveiling of the new murals at EMC Park this weekend. So I encourage everyone to drive by and take a look. They're gorgeous. And one of them is cancer related. I didn't know they had an American Cancer Society club at the high school. So I think that's very meaningful for people.
Matt?
Thank you. I have a couple. So some of these we've already touched on, but DPW. So Ed Harrow noted so many moons ago that we had received funding for a culvert. We also received some supplemental funding for just overall accessibility improvements. In addition to the Chapter 90 funds that I discussed at our last meeting, which were used for some of that paving on Peppercorn and DeCarlo, just we're often talking about the budget being tight. It's nice to emphasize that our department heads are finding ways to deliver without necessarily requiring it from the community. Some of you may be wondering, why are so many of us wearing yellow? It is a jaunty color, but it is also more than that. It is, for those of you who may not be aware, Cancer Awareness Month this September. And while cancer has touched, unfortunately, many of our lives and my family, my father is a 2-time skin cancer survivor himself. It is especially relevant to the town and the Department of Public Works because one of our staff members, John McDonald, and his son, Cam, are fighting this year. Cam has already overcome brain cancer once, and he's now fighting through bone cancer. So this September, when you see members of our community, whether it's the orange DPW shirts with the yellow ribbon, every member of the select board up here, mine's on my jacket, but please take the yellow tie as an indication. We stand with the people in our community who are fighting the unseen fight, and we recognize them. And I appreciate that our DPW is leading from the front on this. There is more to what that department does than put salt on the roads. This was a great example of what it means to be community focused. Speaking of community focused, we mentioned the PFAS forum on the 16th of September. I will note in my one-on-one with Director Reed that there was some concern around the initial returns on the membranes and overall purification process at some of our new treatment facilities. Those membranes are showing a higher rate of fouling and swap out than we were initially anticipating. What should you hear that as? Is my water unsafe? Your water is not unsafe. You are still meeting all of the requirements. What you should hear that as is the equipment is, we're getting, how do I want to say this? When you operate a membrane like this, it's a little bit of science and it's a little bit of art. There are a lot of things that can cause them to foul, including pressure, the way in which they're being operated, oriented. This is largely new technology and we're still punching through it. But it is resulting in some enhanced costs over there, which I suspect we'll be talking about as well. Speaking of costs, you may remember that Mary Arnott came before this board to talk about some discrepancies in water and sewer billing. She had intimated that while the billing is done on a semi-annual basis, she was noticing a discrepancy in the recorded values versus the approved rates at the time. I regret to inform you, Mary will be correct about that, actually. I've done a little bit of digging and had some conversations. This is a relic of, in some parts, the way the Munis software that we're using structures the billing cycle. I'm working with Director Reed in the background on a draft proposal that she had already put together with Elaine. I've given some comments on that. I'm looking forward in the future to bringing that here so that we can have a better discussion about what it would look like to support that. Speaking of support, water and sewer billing has been an interesting topic here recently. We recently approved those rates, but I mentioned at the time that I was looking for a more permanent solution. It will surprise you, I have done some work. We have met with the engineering consultancy Abrams, so myself and our Chief Financial Officer, Kyla LaPierre, who was here earlier, to review our expectations and rates. Without taking you too far down the rabbit hole, folks, the rest of the town operates on a 5% stabilization buffer, which is required to be maintained as a function of what our annual operating expense is. Hear that in short, non-nerd terms? You gotta have money put aside for a rainy day, and it's a good idea to do so. The Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund is actually the only fund that exists in the community which is not beholden to this interesting and seemingly relevant financial principle. Kyla and I have asked Abrams to do a little bit of modeling about what it would look like to consider what a target would look like such that the water and sewer could be maintained utilizing the wildly known information of what is the operating expense, what are the projected cap expenses, what are the known inputs and known outputs. If that sounds like a word problem to you folks, that's because it is, and the only missing thing there is the rate. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to come back to you all with a little bit of a better process and policy for how we can stabilize that. Last but not least, around the DPW, Director Reed reached out to please implore me to note to you that we have been upgraded to being in a level 2 drought. Please, please, please restrict your water usage to hand watering only before 9 a.m. or after 5 p.m. I'm going to be driving around. I see green lawns. We're going to be having conversations. From a Parks and Rec perspective, Sandy Beach is now closed. I don't want to see any necking down there. Poly Arts was an absolute success this past week, 50 years of excellence. Family Day coming up this weekend as well. We mentioned when Sabine and Brendan were here that there's a restaurant opening at Keefe Tech. I think that's really interesting and another way for you all to potentially get involved in your community. I'll have more next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Shadow.
I have a few. For the Board of Health, I think Elaine covered the PFAS forum, September 16, 6:30. So please attend, and I would like to hear your voices as well, and it's going to be very informative. The Health Department got a grant to provide free tick removal kits to residents. They are available for pickup at the town hall and also at Western Nurseries. This is what it looks like, and it's completely free to the residents and didn't cost any tax dollars. It's from the grant, so that's good. Thanks to the Board of Health and Sean and the crews. There's a flu shot also coming for 65 plus. That's in October, so we'll give a reminder before that. For ESBC2, things are proceeding with construction. As you probably have likely noticed, the house has been torn down, clearing is complete, and we are set to begin foundation work. So it's tracking well, which is good news. And we already heard about the possible savings that's coming from the original estimates, which is also good news. And we are continuing to work with the neighbors to minimize disruptions as much as possible. On the school front, there's a listening session coming up on 9/21, September 21st, 7 p.m. And it's going to be specifically about the calendars, which is of interest for many. So please attend, and we'd like to hear your voice. They would like to hear residents' voice. Zoom link is also available for that. And also, just before we jump in budget later in the year, the school is 100 students away from projection for enrollment numbers, meaning we will absolutely surpass the projections again, most likely. So it will be interesting budget implications to see again. And we have two new student reps, Ella Snyder and Ryan Click, both HHS seniors. Congratulations to them and welcome them to the committees. Finally, on the affordable housing front, there's been interesting progress on the RFP for I have the address somewhere, for the affordable housing that we are planning to build and invest on at 28 Knoll Road. So that's going out soon. And we also have, interestingly, $4.9 million in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund to invest on that. So now the Affordable Housing Committee, rightfully so, is considering how can we find and identify other town assets or town buildings where we can invest and convert them for affordable housing, which can be promising in the coming days. That's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Brian?
You'll be happy to know I have nothing to report. Thank you.
I have nothing new to add for liaison reports. So we're going to quickly go through. We talked about several future agenda items. So if everyone, we called out a couple, if we just want to capture those quickly. I think we had, where was it?
I got a little bit salty about the removal of the sand and salt from the public fields at Fruit Street. And I'd like to have a better discussion about that.
I like to play on words.
Just for you, buddy.
So we'll do salt removal. Was there anything else specific anyone wanted to add? We obviously have the next step with legal counsel. That's a big one.
I have nothing else to add.
I had a couple that I mentioned at previous meetings that didn't make the list yet, but I talked to Elaine about one, the historical plaque commemorating the enslaved people who lived in Hopkinton, and I think that's coming forward in one of the next meetings.
Talking the plaque and the historical?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's coming soon.
That's planned.
And the second one is, we had discussion of potentially a July 4th parade or not, and I was just like, it doesn't need to be soon, but it shouldn't be, we shouldn't wait till June to discuss.
So through the chair, I meet with Parks and Rec on liaison next week. That is number one with a bullet is planning and requirements for parades in town. I will absolutely be back on that topic.
Okay. But I don't have anything other than those two.
I think along the same lines, I think the plaque is certainly on my radar, so I appreciate having that. And I think the July 4th, that's a good topic to discuss. So we'll hear from Mr. Kisner what he comes back with from the Park and Rec. But I think it would be good for us to have it on the agenda so we can collectively start brainstorming and discussing how we want to do it in the future.
Yep.
And there was a third one. Just slipped my mind. I'll come back.
I think the one other, I wanted an update on the center school project, the RFP process, where we are with that. I think, a lot of people ask me about that on a regular basis, so if we can update everyone.
Just as an aside, where are we on town charter? I know we're coming up on charter review as well, and we haven't particularly discussed that. We've had a lot of other burning topics, but I would love an update on where that is from a sequencing perspective as well. So we're about to kick off on budget, and it's going to get busy in a hurry in here.
Okay. All right, perfect. I think that covers that. So I think that wraps up our list. So now we're going to move to executive session. So I will look for a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations with the dispatch union. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to litigation, Heverling versus Board of Appeals, and Foisey Land Court Document Number 25, miscellaneous 476 MDV, to approve executive session minutes, to allow Elaine Lazarus, Lance Del Priore, Brian Bertram, and John Catino to participate in executive session, and not to convene an open session after the conclusion of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. This one will be a roll call vote. Amy?
Amy Roderbush, yes?
Matthew Kisner, yes.
Joe Clark, yes?
yes.
Brian Herr, yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.